Welcome to Healing Not Heal, where we will talk about all things mental health and holistic wellness in a very transparent and culturally competent space. So, for today, I wanted to talk about the concept of radical acceptance. So, what is radical acceptance? Radical acceptance is a key distress tolerance skill in dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT. And I want to say it's largely used in other spiritual communities and cultural communities. In simplest of terms, it is what it is. I know, of course, we can slap some fancy terminology on it and call it science, but in other words, people have been kind of using that term for a while. And clinically, I want to explain what it means more on an emotional and cognitive level. Its major concept is just fully accepting reality as it is, even when we know how painful or discomforting or undesirable acknowledging that reality is, and that fighting against that reality would only cause more suffering in the long term. It's letting go of the need to change things you cannot control and to move forward with life despite that discomfort. I want to be very clear that this is not learned helplessness and this is not passivity. It's not about allowing life to just happen to you. It's assessing what's within your control, what's out of your control, what is your need to be in control, and how do you navigate your emotions from there. It's the choice to let go of things and the need to be in control to change things. The core principle is just acknowledging that certain things cannot be changed. Certain situations, certain people cannot be changed. And instead of trying to fight or control it, you allow things to be as they are. You accept things and learn to navigate yourself, not the circumstances around you. While pain is a natural part of life, resisting the reality of life, it turns pain into an unnecessary amount of suffering. And that's something I had to learn as well, is that needing to control your environment sometimes is out of a place of fear, anxiety, and sometimes safety, wanting to know and navigate and mitigate for everything. And a lot of things are outside of our control, and you will cause yourself to go through a lot of mental distress trying to mitigate a lot of factors that are outside of your control. And so it may seem like people come from a nonchalant place with certain things because they don't press an issue. But the reality is that if you know yourself enough, and I think that's the place that people have to come to, is knowing yourself enough to know when you've exhausted your efforts in a situation to just let it be, and how do you navigate moving forward. For an example, I'll use these two personal, because I know I've done it and I know it's something that's common. One example is, we laugh at girls at sending that long text message of expressing your feelings, or that long voice note of expressing your feelings, and that need to be understood, right? It's probably not the first, the second, or the last time you've done it, but you get frustrated every time because you want to be understood so much, and you exhaust all this energy still not to be validated, still not to be understood, to still feel mentally and emotionally exhausted, where in reality is just accepting that this person is who they are, and you mitigating where you want to align your boundaries around that person, instead of trying to force them to be who you want them to be, or understand your point of view, or to get them to validate how you feel. When you see yourself constantly doing that, you have to ask yourself, why am I in a constant need to be understood? Why am I in a constant need to be validated? What do I need from this person versus what do I need for myself? What am I not giving myself? Why am I not validating myself? And why am I negotiating my boundaries? Why am I negotiating my worth, right? Another key example of again, trying to control a situation or trying to make sense of a situation. A lot of things that we struggle with radical acceptance comes with family, like parents, for instance. Accepting a parent for how they show up and how they are in their life, in this current moment, right? I think there's a lot of mother-father wounds from both genders, male and female, where again, that need to be validated, that need to be understood, and you go through cycles of wanting, again, wanting that validation, wanting to be understood, trying to get your point across, trying to feel validated, whether it's within that relationship with parents or, again, new relationships and romantic relationships, friendships, whatever the case. You go through, again, a repetitive cycle of wanting to be understood and validated instead of accepting yourself, accepting the situation, accepting the person for who they are. If you've had numerous conversations about your feelings and still have walked away feeling invalidated, why you continue to try to enforce your boundaries onto someone else, right? Versus acknowledging where someone is in their own journey. And again, not personalizing it, because I think that's where we struggle a lot, is personalizing someone else's mental and emotional journey to our own. And a lot of the case, a lot of people are struggling. This is where empathy comes in. A lot of people are struggling within themselves that they can't even recognize or hold space or have capacity for what you're going through. And so that constant fight that you're trying to have with them, they don't even have the necessary space for themselves to acknowledge what is going on within themselves. So how do you expect them to show up for you? And I think when you recognize that aspect too, it's tenfold. It's tenfold, because sometimes we don't recognize within ourselves how we show up in people's lives and how we need to work on ourselves to be better people for those people as well. And so I think that's where lies the grace of radical acceptance, of acknowledging where people are in their lives, including yourselves, and assessing where is that need for control for myself and for other people, and assessing my own thoughts and behaviors and feelings and mitigating those, trying to navigate those so those are more in alignment with what I'm trying to attract in life. So the key aspect is to focus on what's in your control. While accepting why you cannot change certain things, focus on the energy you have on what you can change and what you can to respond to. While accepting what you cannot change, focus your energy on how you can respond to the situation and manage your own emotions. We externalize a lot of our needs and control so much that we forget the power within ourselves to really work on changing within ourselves to be more in alignment with what we want and call in on the first place. I think we are able to easily identify and assess problems within other people without acknowledging and assessing our needs within that relationship, and how we, not to say that people shouldn't hold themselves accountable, because they absolutely should, but also some self-reflection and accountability on what you allow and why in that relationship. And so assessing your need in the first place. If we were to focus more on aligning our integrity with our values and our boundaries and even how we communicate, we lessen our desperation for that need to be understood and accepted by other people. I think if you're communicating your needs to people in a way that you feel, very clear and direct on what your needs are, you're clearly communicating what your needs are to people, and people aren't internalizing that value, again, they're not at the same place that you are, and it's not a personal attack against you or something that you feel like you need to control and get them to be a certain way. It's just mitigating, navigating, and assessing, okay, where am I in this relationship? What value does it hold to me? Is this something that I continue to try to work on and develop with this person, or do I relinquish my need for control, accept them for who they are and what they can offer in my life and in my relationship, and then navigate towards people or energy or environments that support the need that I have this requirement for. A lot of that self-talk means spending a lot of intimate conversations with your thoughts, your feelings, no matter how uncomfortable they get sometimes. The challenge is to observe your thoughts and feelings without judging them. And that's very hard for a lot of us to do, because we're very self-critical. We're very over analytical of ourselves, and we're not the kindest to ourselves. And so I think that's also how we project other people's feelings onto ourselves, because we're not so kind with ourselves with our words. We assume and project that other people would have that same energy and perception of us as well. And even if they did. But the challenge is just to observe, simply acknowledging them, where they show up in your body. And then acknowledging the tension there too. I think there is a lot to be said about acknowledging your feelings and where they're showing up for you within your body, and where is the resistance to that. Because, and we'll get to that, resistance, inflammation, tension, you see where I'm going with that. Your mental, your physiological well-being go hand in hand. Acknowledging your emotions and your feelings and where they're showing up with your body, and processing that so that you can essentially release and navigate. How do you cope moving forward when you get stuck in a place trying to, again, get things to be a certain way? That energy gets stuck in wanting, again, that resistance of things being a certain way, and you're just causing more physiological and mental damage to yourself trying to control your environment, versus understanding where you stand in your environment and trying to control yourself. So I hope this was helpful. If you want to know more about radical acceptance, or DBT skills and distress tolerance, go ahead and shoot me a message. And also follow my Patreon. Follow me on all social media accounts at Healing Crown Counseling, Healing Crown Wellness. Again, thank you for joining.